My hands shook violently as the prenup blurred before my tear-filled eyes. All assets become Reginald Kensington's sole property. My $15 million empire built from nothing would vanish with a signature. My fiancé's mother smiled coldly, tapping her perfect nail beside the line. "Sign it or there's no wedding." Something inside me snapped. Here I stood 30 minutes before walking down the aisle, discovering that the man I loved and his family viewed me as nothing more than a gold digger. They had no idea what storm they'd just unleashed. Because Dara Martinez doesn't back down from a fight, especially when someone tries to steal everything I've worked my entire life to build. 18 months earlier, I'd met Reginald at the Children's Hospital Charity Gala in downtown Chicago. I remember standing near the silent auction tables, bidding on a weekend getaway to Napa Valley, when this tall man with kind eyes approached me. He didn't lead with his family name or trust fund like most wealthy men I'd encountered. Instead, he asked about my work. "Cybersecurity consulting." I'd explained, watching his face for the usual glazed expression that followed. "I help companies protect their digital assets from hackers and data breaches." But Reginald leaned in closer, genuinely interested. "That sounds fascinating. With everything going digital, that must be incredibly important work." I'd spent 7 years building Martinez Security Solutions from my cramped studio apartment on the North Side. Those early days were brutal. 80-hour weeks surviving on ramen noodles and determination cold calling potential clients who hung up the moment they heard my age and gender. But I'd earned my computer science degree from Northwestern, graduated summa cum laude, and I knew I had something valuable to offer. My first major breakthrough came when a mid-sized insurance company hired me to audit their systems after a minor breach. I discovered 17 vulnerabilities their internal team had missed, including one that could have compromised 50,000 customer records. Word spread quickly through Chicago's business community. Within 3 years, I was consulting for Fortune 500 companies. By 30, I'd built a team of 12 specialists. By 32, my company was worth $15 million. Reginald seemed genuinely impressed by my journey. He shared stories about his own struggles with family expectations and finding his purpose beyond the Kensington name. We talked until the gala ended, then continued over coffee that stretched past midnight. He was different from the entitled rich men I'd encountered before. Thoughtful, respectful. He asked about my dreams, my challenges, my vision for expanding internationally. Our romance bloomed naturally over the following months. Quiet dinners discussing literature and current events. Weekend trips to Michigan's wine country. He introduced me to classical music, taking me to the Chicago Symphony. I showed him the beauty of coding, the satisfaction of solving complex puzzles that protected people's livelihoods. 6 months in, we started talking about the future. Reginald spoke passionately about combining our resources and expertise to create something meaningful. He envisioned a foundation supporting women in technology, using his family's connections and my industry knowledge to break barriers. I felt like I'd found not just a partner, but an equal who understood my ambitions. When he proposed last Christmas Eve in his family's mansion library, surrounded by first edition books and a crackling fireplace, I believed we were building something beautiful together. The ring was stunning but modest by Kensington standards. He'd chosen it himself, he said, because he wanted something that reflected my personality rather than his bank account. Now, staring at this prenup in the bridal suite of the Palmer House Hotel, I felt like everything had been a lie. The document wasn't just insulting, it was comprehensive in its cruelty. Every asset I owned, every business interest, even my intellectual property would become Reginald's upon marriage. Meanwhile, his family's wealth remained completely protected. I stormed out of the suite, my wedding dress rustling against the ornate hallways. Reginald was adjusting his bow tie in the groom's preparation room when I burst through the door. "Did you know about this?" I demanded, shoving the prenup toward his chest. His face went pale. He couldn't meet my eyes, fidgeting with his cufflinks like a guilty child. "Dara, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for 18 months, that everything you said about being partners was complete garbage? My mother insisted." He stammered, finally looking up. "She said it was family tradition that we had to protect generational wealth. I was afraid to tell you because I knew you'd be upset." "Upset, Reginald? This document would give you legal ownership of everything I've worked for since college, everything I built with my own hands, and you think I'd just be upset?" He sank into a chair, head in his hands. "I know it looks bad, but my family has always done business this way. It's not personal, Dara. It's just how we protect our interests." The word interests hit me like a physical blow. "Your interests. What about mine? What about the woman you supposedly love enough to marry?" "I do love you," he said weakly, "but my mother controls the family trust. If I don't follow her wishes, I could be cut off entirely." Standing there watching the man I'd planned to spend my life with choose his mother's money over our partnership, I realized how completely I'd misjudged him. This wasn't the strong, independent thinker I'd fallen for. This was a 34-year-old child terrified of mommy's disapproval. Through the window, I could see wedding guests gathering in the hotel's grand ballroom. 200 people, including my parents who'd flown in from Phoenix, my college roommates' business associates, and half of Chicago's elite social circle. Everyone was expecting a fairy tale wedding. Instead, they were about to witness something entirely different. I retreated to the bridal suite, my mind racing while my heart shattered. The burgundy velvet chairs and crystal chandelier that had seemed elegant hours earlier now felt like a gilded cage. I needed information, and I needed it fast. My business partner Jake had always been my voice of reason during critical decisions. If anyone could help me understand what I was really dealing with, it was him. Jake answered on the first ring. "Dara, shouldn't you be walking down the aisle right about now?" "Jake, I need you to run a comprehensive financial background check on the Kensington family holdings. Everything you can find. Corporate filings, real estate records, credit reports, litigation history. I need it in the next 30 minutes. "What's going on? You sound terrible." I explained the prenup situation in rapid-fire sentences while pacing the suite's Persian rug. Jake's background in forensic accounting made him invaluable for due diligence on potential clients, but I'd never asked him to investigate my own fiancé's family before. "That's suspicious as hell," he said. "Give me 20 minutes. I'll call you back." No sooner had I hung up than Patricia Kensington glided into the suite, followed by my 4 bridesmaids. Patricia was the kind of woman who commanded attention without raising her voice. 70 years old but looking 55, thanks to excellent cosmetic surgery, she wore her silver hair in an elegant chignon and carried herself like royalty. Her navy Oscar de la Renta dress probably cost more than most people's cars. "Dara, darling," she said, her tone dripping false warmth. "The ceremony should have started 15 minutes ago. Our guests are growing restless." My maid of honor, Emma, looked concerned. "Dara, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just pre-wedding nerves. I managed not wanting to involve my friends in this disaster yet." Patricia's steely gaze never left my face. "I trust you've had time to review the documentation we discussed. It's really quite standard for families of our caliber." The word caliber was loaded with implication. Patricia had always been subtly condescending about my background. Little comments about my charming middle-class upbringing, how refreshing it was to meet someone so ambitious, despite their humble origins. I'd ignored it before, assuming she just needed time to warm up to me. "I'm still reviewing the terms," I said carefully. Patricia's smile became razor sharp. Dara, I think there may be some confusion about expectations here. The Kensington family has been pillars of Chicago society for 4 generations. We didn't build our reputation by making careless decisions about family assets. My bridesmaid Sarah, a lawyer herself, stepped forward. What kind of documentation are we talking about? Standard prenuptial agreements. Patricia waved dismissively. Nothing unusual for families with significant holdings. But her body language told a different story. The slight tremor in her perfectly manicured hands. The way she avoided direct eye contact when discussing family assets. The subtle desperation underlying her polished facade. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Holy shit, calling you now. I need to take this call, I announced. Could everyone please give me a moment of privacy? Patricia's eyes narrowed. Dara, we really must proceed with the ceremony. The catering staff is asking about dinner service timing. 5 minutes, I said firmly, watching them file out reluctantly. Jake's voice was grim when I answered. Dara, sit down. The Kensingtons are in serious financial trouble. Kensington Industries is leveraged to the hilt. They owe $17 million across multiple creditors. Their real estate portfolio looks impressive on paper, but it's mortgaged beyond market value. The family mansion has 3 liens against it. My stomach dropped. Are you certain? Corporate filings don't lie. They've been selling assets quietly for the past 2 years. The yacht, the summer house in the Hamptons, even Patricia's jewelry collection went through auction houses. They're basically broke Dara, living off credit and whatever cash they can squeeze from liquidating investments. What about Reginald's trust fund? Depleted. His father apparently made some catastrophic investments in cryptocurrency and biotech startups right before he died 5 years ago. Lost nearly everything. Patricia's been scrambling to maintain appearances while the foundation crumbles underneath. I sank into the velvet chair pieces falling into place. Reginald's reluctance to discuss finances in detail. Patricia's sudden interest in my business success. The way they'd rushed the engagement and wedding timeline. They hadn't fallen in love with me. They'd targeted my wealth. There's more, Jake continued. I found records of litigation against them from former business partners. Breach of contract, failure to pay invoices, even allegations of fraud in one case that was settled out of court. Dara, these people are desperate. Through the suite's windows, I watched late afternoon sunlight filter through the hotel's courtyard. 200 guests were waiting for a wedding that would essentially be a financial crime. They wanted to marry me to steal my company, my assets, everything I'd built from nothing. Keep digging, I told Jake. I have a feeling this gets worse. When Patricia returned with my bridesmaids, her mask had slipped slightly. The pressure was getting to her. Dara, we simply cannot delay any longer. Chicago's most prominent families are in attendance. The mayor is here. Postponing would be socially catastrophic. The word catastrophic hung in the air. Patricia wasn't just worried about social embarrassment. She was terrified because this wedding represented her family's last chance at financial salvation. Without my assets, they'd face bankruptcy within months. I understand the pressure, I said quietly, but this is the biggest decision of my life. Surely a few more minutes won't matter. Patricia's composure cracked just enough for me to see the desperation underneath. Dara, I think you're overcomplicating a simple business arrangement. Wealthy families protect their assets. It's what we do. But she was sweating now despite the suite's air conditioning. Her perfect facade was crumbling because she knew I was stalling and she couldn't figure out why. My phone rang again. Jake's voice was tense. Dara, you need to hear this immediately. I just discovered something that changes everything. What did you find? I whispered, turning away from Patricia and my bridesmaids who were pretending to arrange flowers while obviously straining to overhear my conversation. Jake's voice was incredulous. Reginald is already married, legally married to a woman named Sarah Chen in Las Vegas, Nevada. The ceremony took place 2 years ago. My legs nearly gave out. I gripped the windowsill for support. That's impossible. He would have told me. Court records don't lie, Dara. Sarah filed for divorce 13 months ago, but the papers were never properly served because Reginald avoided the process server. The divorce was never finalized. According to Nevada state law, he's still legally married to her. The room started spinning. Not only were they trying to steal my assets, but Reginald was attempting bigamy. Our entire wedding would be illegal from the moment we said our vows. Get me Sarah's contact information, I said urgently. Phone number, address, everything you can find. Already on it. I'll text you her details in 2 minutes. Dara, there's something else. I found social media posts from Sarah's friends during their relationship. She was a pharmaceutical sales executive, very successful. Made about $400,000 a year. The timeline suggests Reginald targeted her for money, too. Patricia appeared at my elbow like a well-dressed vulture. Dara, darling, who are you speaking with? We really must begin the processional. Business emergency, I said curtly. Give me 1 more minute. Patricia's eyes flashed with something dangerous. I'm beginning to think you don't understand the gravity of this situation. If you embarrass the Kensington family today, there will be consequences. Your business depends on referrals from Chicago's elite community. Social circles in this city have long memories. The threat was barely veiled. Patricia was essentially saying that if I didn't go through with this financial fraud disguised as a wedding, she'd destroy my professional reputation. The irony was staggering. They were the ones committing crimes while threatening me. My phone buzzed with Sarah's information. I stepped into the suite's marble bathroom and dialed her number. Hello. The voice was cautious, professional. Sarah, this is Dara Martinez. I believe you were married to Reginald Kensington. I need to speak with you immediately. It's an emergency. Silence for several heartbeats. Then, oh my God, you're the one he's supposed to marry today. I've been wondering when this call would come. You knew about our wedding. I've been tracking his activities since I discovered he was hiding from the divorce papers. Dara, you need to know what you're dealing with. Reginald and his mother are running an elaborate con game. They targeted me exactly the same way they targeted you. My heart pounded as Sarah continued. They researched my income, my assets, my social connections before Reginald even approached me. Patricia coached him on what to say, how to appeal to my interests. The entire relationship was calculated to access my money. How much did they steal from you? $200,000 in loans for family emergencies that never existed. They would have gotten more if I hadn't discovered Patricia researching my investment accounts. That's when I realized what was really happening and filed for divorce. Through the bathroom door, I could hear Patricia's voice becoming sharper as she directed my bridesmaids to prepare for the ceremony. Time was running out. Sarah, I need your help. Can you get to the Palmer House Hotel in downtown Chicago? I'm about to expose everything, but I need evidence of their pattern of behavior. I'm already in my car, she said. I've been waiting for this day for months. I have documentation of everything, Dara. Bank records, recorded phone calls, even photos of Patricia meeting with private investigators she hired to research my finances. I'll be there in 4 hours. 4 hours. The wedding was supposed to start 20 minutes ago. Then you'd better find a way to stall. Trust me, what I'm bringing will destroy them completely. Make sure you don't sign anything before I arrive. I hung up and returned to the suite where Patricia was checking her diamond watch with obvious agitation. Dara, this delay is becoming embarrassing. What possible business emergency could be more important than your wedding day? Cybersecurity breach at a major client. I lied smoothly. Their entire customer database is compromised. I need to coordinate the response team. My maid of honor, Emma, looked concerned. Can't someone else handle it? This is your wedding day. Some responsibilities can't be delegated, I said, meeting Patricia's gaze directly. I'm sure you understand the importance of protecting valuable assets. Patricia's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She knew I was stalling but couldn't figure out my endgame. That uncertainty was making her increasingly desperate. Perhaps we should postpone the ceremony until tomorrow, she suggested carefully. Give you time to handle your business crisis properly. But I caught the calculation behind her suggestion. 24 more hours would give them time to regroup, possibly convince me to sign the prenup through different pressure tactics, or worst-case scenario disappear if they suspected I was onto their scheme. No, I said firmly. We'll proceed today. I just need a little more time to wrap up this situation. Why don't you go reassure our guests? Tell them we're dealing with a minor delay. Patricia hesitated, clearly wanting to stay and monitor my activities. But social protocol demanded she attend to the guests, many of whom were probably growing restless and curious about the holdup. Fine, she said crisply. But Dara, we cannot delay much longer. This is becoming quite awkward for everyone involved. After she left with my bridesmaids, I called Jake back. I need you to contact the Chicago Police Department. Find out what the procedure is for reporting bigamy and fraud. Don't file anything yet, but get me the information so I'm prepared. Already researched it. Bigamy is a felony in Illinois. With proper evidence, they can arrest him today. The fraud charges would be more complex, but the threat of prosecution might be enough leverage for now. Perfect. And Jake, start documenting everything on our end. If this goes public, I want a complete paper trail showing I discovered their scheme and took appropriate action. Dara, are you sure about this? Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. The Kensingtons will never forgive you. I looked around the elegant bridal suite, thinking about the woman I'd been just 2 hours ago. Naive enough to believe that love conquered all. Trusting enough to think that successful people were automatically honest people. They made their choice when they decided to steal from me, I said. Now they get to live with the consequences. Through the window, I could see wedding guests mingling in the courtyard below. My parents stood near the fountain, probably wondering why their daughter's perfect day was falling apart. They'd sacrificed so much to support my education and dreams. I couldn't let these predators steal everything we'd worked for. Sarah would arrive with evidence in less than 4 hours. I just had to keep this charade going until then, without signing anything that would give the Kensingtons legal access to my assets. The real wedding was about to begin, but it wouldn't be the ceremony anyone expected. 3 hours and 17 minutes. That's how long I managed to stall before Sarah Chen walked into the Palmer House Hotel, looking like she was ready for war. She wore a sharp navy business suit and carried a leather briefcase that looked heavy with documentation. Her black hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her expression could have cut glass. I met her in the hotel lobby, away from the wedding chaos upstairs. Sarah was younger than I'd expected, probably early 30s, with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to closing major deals. Dara, she approached me directly. I recognize you from the engagement photos that were in the Tribune Society section. We found a quiet corner near the hotel's grand staircase, away from curious guests who might recognize me in my wedding dress. Thank you for coming, I said. I know this situation is bizarre, but I need to understand what I'm dealing with. Sarah opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick manila folder. What you're dealing with is a sophisticated long-term con operation. The Kensingtons have been running this scheme for at least 3 years that I can document, possibly longer. She spread photographs across the small table between us. Pictures of Reginald at various upscale events, always with different women. All appeared successful, well-dressed, confident. All were the same general-type professional women in their 30s, clearly financially independent. I hired a private investigator after I filed for divorce, Sarah explained. I wanted to understand how I'd been so completely fooled. Turns out I wasn't their first target. This woman here, she pointed to a brunette in an elegant cocktail dress, is Dr. Amanda Foster, a cardiologist from Denver. Reginald courted her for 6 months before she discovered his existing marriage to me and broke it off. My stomach churned as she continued. This woman is Jessica Liu, a patent attorney from San Francisco. She nearly married him before her brother's background check revealed the financial problems. And here's Catherine Barnes, who owns a chain of veterinary clinics in Minneapolis. She actually did loan Reginald $50,000 for a fabricated family emergency before realizing she was being scammed. The photos painted a clear picture. Reginald targeted successful women across the country, probably moving from city to city to avoid detection. Patricia likely coordinated the research and strategy while her son played the charming suitor. How did they find their targets? I asked. Professional conferences, charity events, alumni gatherings, anywhere successful women network publicly. Patricia would research potential marks ahead of time, then position Reginald to make contact. She coached him on their interests, career achievements, even personal details gathered from social media. Sarah pulled out a recording device. I managed to record several phone conversations between Patricia and Reginald during our relationship. She was incredibly detailed in her instructions about how to manipulate me. She pressed play. Patricia's voice filled the space between us, cold and calculating. Remember, she's very proud of her pharmaceutical knowledge. Ask her about drug development timelines. Show interest in her expertise, but don't pretend to understand more than you do. Women like Sarah respond to men who respect their intelligence while remaining confident themselves. The recording continued with Patricia providing detailed coaching on how to exploit my emotional vulnerabilities and financial assets. I felt physically sick listening to them discuss me like a mark in a confidence game. There's more, Sarah said, pulling out bank statements and legal documents. The Kensingtons' financial situation is worse than your partner probably discovered. They owe money to some very serious people. Patricia borrowed against her jewelry collection from a private lender who charges 30% interest. They're facing foreclosure on the family mansion within 60 days, unless they come up with $400,000. So I'm not just a target, I'm their Hail Mary, I realized. Exactly. Your $15 million company would solve all their problems. They probably plan to drain your business account slowly, maybe force you into bad investments or loans that would benefit them. By the time you realized what was happening, everything would be gone. I thought about the prenup sitting upstairs in the bridal suite. It wasn't just about protecting Kensington assets, it was about legally transferring mine to them. Sarah, I need to know. Are you willing to help me expose this publicly right now in front of 200 guests, including some of Chicago's most prominent families? She smiled for the first time since arriving. I've been waiting 14 months for this opportunity. Those bastards destroyed my trust in relationships and cost me $200,000. I want to see them burn. We spent the next hour coordinating our plan. Sarah had enough documentation to prove a pattern of fraud spanning multiple victims across several states. Combined with Jake's financial investigation and the bigamy evidence, we could destroy the Kensingtons' remaining credibility completely. There's something else you should know, Sarah said as we prepared to head upstairs. Patricia has been telling people that you're the one with financial problems. She's been spreading rumors that your company is in trouble and you're marrying Reginald for access to his family's wealth. The audacity was breathtaking. Not only were they trying to steal from me, they were preemptively damaging my reputation to cover their tracks. That's actually perfect, I said. It means everyone upstairs thinks they know the real story. They'll be completely unprepared for the truth. As we approached the ballroom level, I could hear conversation and clinking glasses from the cocktail reception that was probably an hour behind schedule by now. Guests were definitely getting restless. Patricia intercepted us in the hallway, her eyes immediately suspicious when she saw Sarah. "Dara, who is your friend? I don't recall her name on the guest list." "This is Sarah Chen," I said calmly. "She's here to help me make a very important decision about my future." Patricia's face went pale. She recognized the name even if she'd never seen Sarah in person. For a moment, her composure cracked completely. "I think there's been some misunderstanding," Patricia stammered. "Perhaps we should speak privately." "No misunderstanding at all," Sarah said pleasantly. "I've been looking forward to meeting you for quite some time, Mrs. Kensington. We have so much to discuss." Patricia looked like she wanted to run, but we were surrounded by wedding guests and hotel staff. She couldn't escape without causing a scene that would raise uncomfortable questions. "The ceremony needs to begin immediately," Patricia said desperately. "We've kept our guests waiting far too long already." "You're absolutely right," I agreed. "It's time for everyone to see exactly what kind of ceremony this really is." I looked around at the elegant ballroom where 200 people were expecting to witness a fairy tale wedding. Instead, they were about to see justice served on a silver platter. The real celebration was about to begin. I returned to the bridal suite with Sarah beside me, projecting calm confidence while my heart hammered against my ribs. Patricia followed closely, her earlier poise replaced by barely controlled panic. She knew Sarah's presence changed everything, but couldn't figure out how to handle the situation without revealing her own guilt. "I'll sign the prenup now," I announced to the room, watching Patricia's face carefully. "I've decided that Reginald's happiness is more important than my concerns about the legal language." Relief flooded Patricia's features. She actually clasped her hands together like she was praying. "Wonderful, darling. I knew you'd see reason. This is what's best for everyone involved." Emma looked confused by my sudden reversal. "Dara, are you sure you seemed really upset about something earlier?" "Pre-wedding nerves," I said breezily. "Sometimes we overthink these things. Love is what matters most." Patricia practically purred as she produced an expensive fountain pen from her purse. "The Kensington family has used this pen to sign important documents for 3 generations. It seems fitting that you should be the next to use it." As I pretended to review the prenup one final time, Patricia's confidence returned. She began discussing wedding details with renewed enthusiasm, apparently convinced she'd successfully manipulated me into surrendering my assets. "After the ceremony, we'll need to discuss integrating your business operations with the family's investment portfolio," she said. "I have several ideas about maximizing efficiency and returns." Translation: she was already planning how to liquidate my company to pay their debts. "That sounds lovely," I replied. "I'm sure your experience managing family assets will be invaluable." Sarah sat quietly in the corner, documenting everything with her phone's voice recorder app. Patricia was too focused on her victory to notice the additional evidence being collected against her. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "AV team is ready. Everything's set on your end." Earlier, while Patricia was managing wedding guests, I'd discovered something interesting about the Palmer House's event services. The hotel's audiovisual coordinator, Marcus, had been recording various parts of the wedding preparation at Patricia's specific request. She'd wanted comprehensive documentation of what she assumed would be her social triumph. When I explained the real situation to Marcus, he was disgusted enough to cooperate with my plan. The hotel's sound system could broadcast audio throughout the ballroom, and Marcus had hours of recorded conversations between Patricia and various family members discussing their investment strategy regarding my assets. "Mrs. Kensington," I said sweetly, "before I sign this, could you explain once more why these particular terms are necessary? I want to make sure I fully understand the family's perspective." Patricia practically glowed with satisfaction. She clearly believed she was educating a naive young woman about the realities of wealth management. Well, dear, the Kensington family has maintained our position in society through careful financial planning. When assets are properly consolidated, they can be managed more efficiently. Your little computer business has potential, but it needs the guidance of experienced investors to reach its full value. My little computer business, I repeated innocently. Oh, you know what I mean. Small entrepreneurial ventures like yours are charming, but they lack the sophistication of established family enterprises. Under proper management, we could probably triple its value within 2 years. Sarah's eyebrows shot up. Patricia was essentially admitting that she viewed my $15 million company as an amateur operation that needed her family's superior guidance. That's so generous of you, I said. And this prenup ensures that you'll have complete authority to make those improvements? Exactly. No need for lengthy consultations or committee decisions. Reginald will have full discretion to optimize all marital assets for maximum return. The woman was practically confessing to financial theft while believing she was conducting a normal business negotiation. Marcus's recording equipment was capturing every word. One last question, I said, pen hovering over the signature line. What happens if the marriage doesn't work out? Would I retain any stake in my original company? Patricia's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing the predator underneath. Oh, darling, I don't think we need to worry about such negative possibilities. The Kensington family has an excellent track record with marriage contracts. The phrase marriage contracts was telling. She didn't view weddings as romantic unions between equals. To Patricia, they were business transactions designed to acquire assets. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from hotel security. Ms. Martinez, this is Detective Rodriguez with Chicago PD. We're here regarding the situation you reported earlier. Are you ready to proceed? I'd coordinated with Jake to have police standing by in case we needed to press charges for bigamy and fraud. Having law enforcement present would prevent the Kensingtons from trying to leave once their scheme was exposed. Almost ready, I said quietly. Give us 10 more minutes. Patricia was growing impatient with my delays. Dara, we really must proceed. Our guests have been incredibly patient, but this delay is becoming quite awkward socially. You're absolutely right, I agreed. Let's go downstairs and give everyone the ceremony they came to see. I stood up, still holding the unsigned prenup, and smoothed my wedding dress. Patricia beamed with anticipation. Sarah gathered her briefcase full of evidence. My bridesmaids looked relieved that we were finally ready to proceed. Before we go, I said casually, I should mention that I've invited a few additional guests to witness this special moment. I hope you don't mind. Patricia's smile faltered slightly. Additional guests who exactly? Just some people who've been very interested in meeting your family. I think you'll find their perspective quite educational. As we walked toward the ballroom, I could hear the string quartet playing softly and guests conversing in anticipation of the ceremony. 200 people, including Chicago's social elite, were about to witness something unprecedented. Marcus gave me a subtle thumbs up from behind his audio-visual control booth. Everything was ready. Reginald appeared in the hallway looking nervous and pale. He'd probably spent the last few hours wondering why I was taking so long to sign the prenup, but afraid to push too hard in case it backfired. Ready, darling? He asked, attempting his charming smile. Absolutely, I said. This is going to be a wedding that no one ever forgets. And I meant every word. The ballroom looked absolutely stunning. White roses and baby's breath created elegant arrangements throughout the space. Candles flickered on every table, casting a warm glow over the assembled guests. The string quartet played soft classical music as conversations hummed with anticipation. 200 faces turned toward me as I entered. My parents sat in the front row, my father looking handsome in his rented tuxedo, my mother dabbing tears of joy with her lace handkerchief. They'd saved for months to fly here from Phoenix and buy appropriate formal wear. The sight of their proud, loving faces almost broke my resolve. Jake stood near the back, having arrived during the delay. He gave me an encouraging nod. Detective Rodriguez and his partner were positioned discreetly by the exits, ready to intervene if necessary. Sarah took a seat in the back row, her briefcase at her feet. Reginald waited at the altar, looking increasingly nervous as he noticed unfamiliar faces in the crowd. Patricia sat in the front row, wearing a triumphant smile, probably calculating how quickly she could access my bank accounts after the ceremony. I walked down the aisle alone, having decided against the traditional father escort. This was my moment, my choice, my justice to deliver. The wedding march played softly as Chicago's elite society watched what they assumed would be a romantic union between old money and new success. Instead of taking my place beside Reginald, I stepped to the microphone that was positioned for our vows. Thank you all for being here today. I began, my voice carrying clearly through the sound system. I know many of you have been wondering about the delay. I want to explain exactly what's been happening behind the scenes. Reginald's face went white. Dara, what are you doing? I'm giving our guests the full story about this relationship, I continued, because I believe everyone deserves to know the truth about the people they're celebrating. Patricia started to rise from her seat, but Detective Rodriguez's partner moved closer to her row, encouraging her to remain seated. 3 hours ago, I discovered that this wedding was never about love or partnership. It was about theft. Specifically, the theft of the $15 million company I built from nothing over the past 7 years. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Guests began murmuring to each other, trying to process what they were hearing. I held up the unsigned prenup. This document, presented to me 30 minutes before our ceremony, would have transferred ownership of all my assets to Reginald upon marriage. Everything I've worked for since college would have become his property with my signature. Dara, you're misunderstanding, Reginald stammered, but his voice was barely audible compared to the room's acoustics. But here's what makes this truly special, I continued. The man I was supposed to marry today is already married to someone else. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet Sarah Chen, Reginald's legal wife of 2 years. Sarah stood and waved pleasantly at the shocked crowd. The ballroom erupted in confused conversations as people tried to understand how this was possible. Sarah, would you like to tell our guests about your experience with the Kensington family? Sarah approached the microphone with confidence. I'd be happy to, Dara. 2 years ago, Reginald convinced me he was a successful businessman looking for a true partnership with an independent woman. Instead, he and his mother systematically researched my finances, manipulated my emotions, and stole over $200,000 before I discovered their scheme. Patricia finally found her voice. This is preposterous. These women are obviously working together to embarrass our family. You're right about us working together, I said cheerfully, but you're wrong about the embarrassment part. We're here to deliver justice. I signaled to Marcus, who began playing the recorded conversations through the ballroom's sound system. Patricia's voice filled the space coldly, discussing how to exploit my financial assets and manage my little computer business for maximum return. The room listened in stunned silence as Patricia's own words revealed the calculated nature of their scheme. Her voice described me as naive, my company as unsophisticated, and our marriage as a business transaction designed to consolidate assets. When the recording ended, Patricia looked like she wanted to disappear through the floor. Guests stared at her with expressions ranging from shock to disgust. But wait, I announced cheerfully. There's more. Sarah returned to the microphone. The Kensington family is currently facing bankruptcy. Their debts exceed $17 million. They owe money to multiple creditors, including some very serious private lenders. This wedding was their last desperate attempt to access enough money to avoid financial ruin. I pulled out my phone and displayed Jake's financial research on the ballroom's projection screen. Corporate filings, liens, mortgages, and debt obligations scrolled past as guests absorbed the reality of the Kensington family's situation. So, to summarize, I said, "You all came here expecting to witness a romantic wedding. Instead, you've witnessed an attempted fraud bigamy and the exposure of a multi-state confidence scheme targeting successful women." Detective Rodriguez stepped forward. "Reginald Kensington, you're under arrest for bigamy and fraud conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent." The ballroom exploded into chaos as Reginald was handcuffed in front of Chicago's social elite. Patricia sat frozen in her chair, probably calculating how quickly this scandal would spread through their social circles. But I wasn't finished yet. "Before everyone leaves," I announced over the noise, "I want to say something about why this matters beyond just my personal situation." The room gradually quieted as people realized I had more to say. The Kensingtons targeted me because they assumed a woman from a middle-class background would be easily manipulated by wealth and social status. They researched my emotional vulnerabilities and financial assets like I was a business acquisition rather than a human being. I looked directly at Patricia, who was staring at the floor. But here's what they didn't understand. Success isn't about the family you're born into or the trust fund you inherit. It's about the work you do, the value you create, and the integrity you maintain while building something meaningful. My voice grew stronger as I continued. I built my company by solving real problems for real people. Every client relationship was earned through competence and trustworthiness. Every dollar in my bank account represents value I created through my own efforts. I gestured toward the arrested Reginald and his humiliated mother. They tried to steal that not because they had any claim to it, but because they believed their social status entitled them to other people's achievements. That kind of entitlement is exactly what's wrong with people who inherit privilege without earning it. The room was absolutely silent now. Many guests were nodding in agreement, particularly the women who had built their own careers and businesses. So, yes, this wedding is over. But something much more important is beginning. Every woman in this room who has worked for what she has, who has built something meaningful, who has refused to let others define her worth, you're part of a much more exclusive club than anything based on family names or inherited wealth. I looked around the ballroom one final time. Thank you all for being here to witness this. I hope you found it educational. As guests began filing out, many stopped to shake my hand or offer words of support. Several women slipped me business cards saying they'd love to work with someone who had the courage to stand up for herself so decisively. Patricia finally stood and walked toward the exit without making eye contact with anyone. Her social standing was destroyed, her son was in police custody, and their financial scheme was exposed. The price tag for betrayal had indeed been calculated. But for me, the real celebration was just beginning. 6 months later, I sat in my newly expanded office overlooking Lake Michigan, reflecting on how completely my life had transformed since that devastating wedding day. The autumn sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the framed Chicago Tribune article on my wall. Local tech CEO exposes marriage fraud scheme, launches foundation to help other victims. The aftermath of the Palmer House incident had been swift and decisive. Reginald pled guilty to bigamy charges and received 18 months in federal prison. The fraud conspiracy charges were dropped in exchange for his cooperation in investigating other potential victims across multiple states. Patricia faced civil lawsuits from 3 different women who came forward with similar experiences, though she avoided criminal charges by agreeing to make financial restitution. The Kensington family mansion was foreclosed within 60 days, exactly as Sarah's research had predicted. Their remaining assets were liquidated to pay creditors, effectively ending 4 generations of accumulated wealth. Patricia moved to a small apartment in suburban Milwaukee to live near her sister, completely ostracized from Chicago society. But the real justice wasn't in their downfall. It was in what Sarah and I built from the ashes of their betrayal. The Martinez-Chen Foundation for Financial Safety became our shared mission, combining my business expertise with Sarah's pharmaceutical industry connections. We started by creating educational resources helping women recognize and escape financial manipulation in relationships. Our first workshop, held at Northwestern University, drew over 200 attendees and generated local media coverage. Within 3 months, we'd partnered with legal aid societies in 12 cities to provide pro bono assistance to victims of financial abuse. Sarah's documentation of the Kensington scheme became a case study taught in family law courses at 3 major universities. The foundation's success surprised even us. Sarah left her pharmaceutical sales career to work full-time on victim advocacy, while I maintained my cybersecurity business, but dedicated 40% of my time to the foundation's operations. We complemented each other perfectly, Sarah's analytical mind and my entrepreneurial energy, united by shared experience and determination to prevent others from suffering what we'd endured. My business flourished beyond anything I'd imagined. The viral story of standing up to the Kensingtons attracted clients who wanted to work with someone willing to fight for principles over profit. Within 6 months, Martinez Security Solutions had expanded to 4 new cities and hired 18 additional specialists. My company's valuation reached $23 million. More importantly, the experience taught me to trust my instincts about people and situations. I'd ignored red flags about Patricia's subtle condescension and Reginald's financial evasiveness because I wanted to believe in fairy tale romance. Now I approached both business and personal relationships with clearer boundaries and better judgment. Jake became our foundation's chief financial officer, combining his forensic accounting skills with a passion for justice that matched our own. His investigation techniques helped identify patterns of financial abuse that law enforcement agencies began incorporating into their training programs. The most rewarding aspect was hearing from other women who'd escaped similar situations after learning about our story. Dr. Amanda Foster, one of Reginald's previous targets, contacted us to share how our public exposure had validated her decision to trust her instincts and break off their engagement. She became a foundation board member and helped us develop resources specifically for professional women who faced financial manipulation. My parents visited Chicago last month to see the foundation's new offices and meet Sarah in person. Over dinner at my favorite restaurant, my father raised his glass in a toast to Dara, who turned the worst day of her life into a mission to help others. To all of us, I corrected, because the best things in life aren't built by one person working alone. Sarah smiled across the table. To friendship forged by fire and tempered by justice. We'd discovered that real partnership looked nothing like what I'd imagined with Reginald. True collaboration meant mutual respect, shared values, and commitment to something larger than personal gain. Sarah and I challenged each other, supported each other, and created something neither could have built alone. The Foundation's latest project involved developing smartphone apps to help people identify financial red flags in relationships. Sarah's pharmaceutical background proved invaluable for understanding the psychological manipulation tactics that predators use to gain access to their victims' resources. Last week, we received our biggest validation yet, an invitation to testify before a congressional subcommittee investigating financial crimes against women. Our research had identified patterns that federal agencies wanted to incorporate into new legislation protecting victims of economic abuse. As I prepared for tomorrow's board meeting, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago. Someone who equated love with compromise, who believed that successful people were automatically trustworthy, who thought fairy tale endings required accepting other people's definitions of happiness. The woman I'd become understood that real love never demanded the surrender of independence or achievement. True partnership amplified individual strengths rather than requiring their sacrifice. And the most satisfying endings came from writing your own story rather than playing a supporting role in someone else's narrative. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Just confirmed our keynote speech at the National Women's Business Conference next month. Ready to change some more lives? Always, I replied. Let's show them what justice looks like when women refuse to back down. Through my office windows, Lake Michigan stretched toward the horizon, vast and powerful and constantly changing. Like the foundation we'd built, like the lives we'd transformed, like the future we were creating one courageous conversation at a time. The price tag for betrayal had been calculated and paid in full, but the value of fighting back that kept growing every single day. I hope this story resonates with anyone who's ever felt underestimated or taken advantage of by people who should have valued them. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and standing up for what you know is right? I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. If this story inspired you, please give it a like and share it with others who might need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about real people finding the courage to fight back against injustice. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, your worth is never determined by other people's opinions or expectations. Sometimes the most beautiful thing you can do is refuse to accept anything less than you deserve.